good news for General Flynn. An appellate court has granted General Flynn's motion, I guess it's a writ of mandamus, has granted the writ and has ordered the court to dismiss his case. It was a 2-1 decision. There are 3 judges that heard the case. 2 of them agreed with General Flynn that Judge Sullivan had no power under the Constitution to order an inquiry into whether or not the prosecution or the decision to drop the prosecution of General Flynn was proper, and even worse, that it should continue. As the Judge Rao, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the name, the last name is R-A-O, and I encourage you to read the decision online. As she points out, some countries allow judges to be prosecutors, but not here in the United States, not under our constitutional system. So Judge Sullivan has been ordered to dismiss the case. General Flynn had asked also that he be removed from the case, but they declined to do that. So what next? Is General Flynn going to get off free? I hope so. Judge Sullivan, though, hasn't dismissed the case yet. I think he put a hold on it, put a stay on the proceedings, but he hasn't dismissed the case. In theory, although it's hard to figure out exactly how it will work because this is so unusual for courts to try to usurp the power not available to them under the Constitution. You're going to have, are you going to have Judge Sullivan appeal the case, appeal the ruling? Or will you have the other judges on the court decide to take it up in full? Because I guess when you have a appellate decision by a 3-judge panel, what happens is collectively the entire circuit, all the appellate judges in that district can consider the decision en banc, which is a kind of all the judges meeting and figuring it out. I don't think there's any reason to do that. You'll see the decision's quite strong and adamant that there was no legal basis for Judge Sullivan to do what he did. I call it judicial adventurism. And on top of that, we have new documents coming out this week that have been withheld criminally, in my view, by the Justice Department and the FBI from General Flynn that show, once again, Flynn is innocent. There were notes that Peter Strzok took, and it's hard to tell where the notes are. Allegedly, they were written around the time of that infamous Oval Office meeting where Obama, Biden, and others talked about the dossier and General Flynn and things like that, and sicked essentially the FBI on General Flynn. Strzok had, it looks like, I'm speculating here, but the note suggests that he was debriefing someone who talked about it, probably Comey. And the documents show that Comey said there was nothing wrong with the calls between Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, and General Flynn. Joe Biden raised the issue of the Logan Act, which is absurd. It's a law going back centuries. It's never been enforced, practically speaking, certainly not in the modern era. The idea that a law prohibiting U.S. citizens from essentially engaging their own foreign policy would apply to an incoming national security advisor. Frankly, anyone raising that as a possible way to prosecute or spy on an incoming president should have been kicked out of the room. And the fact that evidently Joe Biden was doing it, doesn't that tell you something? Remember, Joe Biden also unmasked General Flynn. And also the notes show that Obama said, be sure the right people are put on it. And raised the prospect of withholding classified information from the incoming Trump administration based on this garbage dossier and this fraud. So as you can see, these notes are exculpatory. They should have been turned over to General Flynn under law. Of course, there were other notes and materials and texts that showed that they knew he did nothing wrong and they were just trying to railroad him, that were withheld as well. And that's obstruction. You have to go back here. This is the incoming national security advisor to the President of the United States, and they're trying to destroy his ability to do the job. Basically blind the president in the exercise of his core constitutional duty to conduct foreign affairs on behalf of you, the American people. That's why I call it a malicious, seditious conspiracy. And when you look at what happened at that Oval Office meeting where the dossier was discussed, they all knew it was fraudulent, salacious and unverified, according to Comey. And yet they used it to ambush President-elect Trump the next day. They knew Flynn had done nothing wrong. You had this January 4th conclusion. Nothing to substantiate a claim against General Flynn. And they all knew it, yet they continued with the investigation after the intervention of FBI leadership, Obama FBI leadership. So they tried to blind the president by removing his trusted national security advisor, by manufacturing a case against him. Remember, the note said, well, do we want to get him fired or do we want to catch him in a lie and prosecute him? It's not the job of the FBI, quote, to get someone fired. That's a political hit. They've been sitting on these documents, and Mueller pursued this investigation. You know what's interesting, though, about what the Justice Department has said about this? They've said, they've said there's no wrongdoing by the Justice Department. They're not admitting to any wrongdoing by the Justice Department. Maybe some bad guys over in the FBI, maybe. But nothing in the Justice Department. So as far as I'm concerned, the cover-up continues. Where are the prosecutions? Where's the grand jury targeting targeting those who railroaded Flynn? I mean, and the coup continues. You had one of these Mueller minions go up on the Hill the other day and once again talk about gossip he heard about interference in the Roger Stone prosecution. This is the prosecutor who tried to put Roger Stone in jail longer than the law required. Twice as long as the law required. Mueller prosecutor that Barr incomprehensibly let continue to pursue Stone after the Mueller operation was shut down officially. Everything that Mueller did is compromised and should be considered corrupt. All the prosecutions. I don't care if he got anyone convicted or not. You just can presume, given what happened with Flynn, everything else has been corrupted. And then they've got their progeny up in the Southern District of New York. You may have caught that in the last few weeks, the other fake scandal, where you got the Southern District of New York going on a jihad against the president, making up campaign charges against him out of whole cloth, suggesting he committed crimes targeting his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, for daring to ask questions about Joe Biden. So they got a never Trumper or a long termer or a deep stater, whatever you want to call it, at the Southern District of New York. And Barr wanted to put someone else in there. And he said, well, you can't do it. And Barr said, oh, yeah, I can. The president's firing you. And Barr had wanted to put someone in there immediately that he liked, but Barr, of course, compromised with this insubordinate official and let his deputy take over. So things will just continue in the Southern District of New York. You know, I don't mean to be hypercritical of Barr, because he's got all of these. The Justice Department, I used to say during the Obama administration, when it comes to public policy, the Justice Department was a locus of evil during the Obama administration. And a lot of those people, at least in terms of the career staff, and just institutionally, they just think they're above the law. And their job is to suppress the president and try to drive him from office. And you kind of see that in the Southern District of New York. You know, Barr's, what he's trying to do publicly is he's being smeared. The Democrats are talking about impeaching him for doing his job again. He's reminding people of our constitutional system that these U.S. attorneys report and are supervised by the Attorney General. And the left is trying to say that the Attorney General of the United States can't do his job. And this is part and parcel of the way the left has been operating in the Trump era. The president can't do his job. He's not allowed to do anything. He's not allowed to talk to the Russians. He's not allowed to conduct foreign policy. He's not allowed to protect the borders. He's not allowed to fire anybody in the executive branch. Oh no, and we can't accept any of his judicial nominees to the Supreme Court. He's not allowed to do any of the things that the president has the power to do under the Constitution. So the coup continues. The coup continues. So it was a big victory for General Flynn, a big victory for the rule of law, confirmation that Barr did the right thing in kicking the case out. But it's also confirmation of a vast criminal conspiracy against the president of the United States. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. They were trying to blind the president. And so you can see the kind of craziness with Flynn. Even still, they think they should be able to go after Flynn. And that's why I think the president needs to pardon him. I mean, he may not need to do it now. But certainly, if a new administration comes in and he's not the president, they're going to go after Flynn again. They're going to go after everyone again. And I only half jokingly say this, President Trump may have to pardon himself. The insurrectionists are also in the administration. And they're waiting to come in terms of political appointees in the future. And who knows what they'll do? Maybe even 8 years from now, let's say he wins. The other side comes in after him. He should just presume the worst. And I don't say that because I say you should vote for one person or the other. I don't say that as president of Judicial Watch. I'm just highlighting the reality. I mean, we saw what happened during the Obama administration, and this same crowd is likely to come back either next year or 4 years from now. And the problem is, none of them have gone to jail for their misconduct. So they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again. So this was an assault on the president, assault on his ability to conduct foreign policy. And that's why he should pardon Flynn, to protect the presidency and his constitutional prerogatives under the Constitution.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.